Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grolier Poetry Bookshop. We have a wonderful reading for you tonight. Askold Melnyczuk here will be giving the introductions. We ask you now to silence your cell phones if you haven't already. Please do so. And thank you so much. Let's give it up to Askold.
Thanks very much, James. Thank you all for coming out this evening. It's always a thrill to be in the storage quarters of the Grolier Bookshop. I'm so grateful to James for giving it new vitality, to the Minkiti family for keeping it alive and running, and to all of you whose presence here testifies to its importance to the community. The way to keep supporting it is, of course, by making sure these shelves are empty by the end of the evening. So we have three fabulous poets reading tonight, and you're going to see a bit more of me than I would like, but there it is. I'll be introducing everybody individually so that there's just a moment to catch your breath between the readings. And we're going to be proceeding, I was going to say alcoholically, but I meant to say alphabetically. So the first reader tonight will be Andrea Cohen. And in the opening poem, The Sorrow of Apartments, Andrea Cohen writes, I steel myself to the mysteries, to believing everything flies in the face of classification. Because the poet knows we're phenomena which can't be captured by any one noun. Quote, I was 5 when I found the head of a wren by the road. I was older when I found its wing. By then it was impossible to piece even the idea of a bird back together. Cohen knows we are greater than the sum of our parts. She's capable of a Johnsonian, as in Ben Jonson, brevity, delighting and illuminating with sly epigrams. Quote, you can love the ice cream and hate the hand that makes it. Reading her, one encounters something of the force and clarity of the classics. Unforced juxtapositions lead to quickening perceptions, as when a child sees a rainstorm as, quote, someone watering the lake. Even solecisms yield unexpected wisdom. Quote, he was a pallbearer at my mother's wedding, I'd said. He was a pallbearer at my mother's wedding, I'd said. Her warm, wry, wholehearted engagement with the world becomes clear in poem after poem. In one titled Something, a speaker calling to report a missed newspaper delivery gets personal with the automated voice answering system. Quote, did you miss today's paper? The machine asks. Yes, I say, but that's not the half of it. Cohen is wide open to the mysteries of the world, and reading the poems widens our own aperture, because, as she writes, that's what life is, people opening, end quote. Andrea Cohen is the author of 8 poetry collections. Her poems appear regularly in the New Yorker, the New York Review of Books, a lot of other places. Her awards include a Guggenheim Fellowship and several residencies at MacDowell. She's taught at the University of Iowa, Emerson, UMass Boston, Boston University, the Fine Arts Work Center, and Merrimack, where she's the founding director of the Writers' House. Cohen also directs the Blacksmith House Poetry Series in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Andrea.
Okay. How's this? It's okay. Thank you, Askold. Thank you, James. It's nice to see some faces of some old friends and some new friends. And so you can hear me okay? Great. What I can also say is, I first came into this storied bookstore when I was in college. I went to Tufts, so I think I was probably 17 when I first came in here. And I was a bit older when my first book came out. And I came and I showed it to Louisa. I said, Louisa, I have a book. And she said, let me see it. And I showed it to her and she kind of went, And I said, so what do you have to do to get in here? She said, buy a lot of books. So it's a pleasure to get to read here. And I'm gonna start with a poem which is imperfect. Maybe a lot of them are imperfect, but this is one from today. And so I always like to read something new, and I always tell my students I'm less concerned with a poem being exactly right than just writing and seeing what happens. So this is called Playbook. There's one kind of tree made for one kind of violin, for making it, I mean, for producing the one kind of music that kind of violin can make. I can't play the violin, can't even tell you which kind of music lives inside which kind of tree. But I do know that spruces and maples make most violins these days. Maybe I'm making up that story about one kind of anything. Maybe that woman tuning her one bit of brilliance was having a go at me with that anecdote, pulling my leg, yanking my chain. No matter. I have held back tears near so many trees, it hardly bears mentioning. Losing my religion. The truth is, I left it on the bus on purpose because I saw someone else's religion there and didn't want it to be lonely. The truth is, you should never begin anything with the truth is, because then people will think everything else you were saying was false. The truth is, all I wanted was this, to fall asleep with you at the bus station, still holding our coffee cups, still holding our scepters. Matinee. Today, the part of love will be played by regret. Memory will be played by what if. Tragedy by the saxophonist. Silence will be played by silence. There will be no intermission. On love. You can't climb on top and call yourself conqueror or straddling whip love into submission. Love wanders from sky to sky. Once or twice I've seen it there, or felt a presence other than my own, a kind of glowing twilight makes before it tires of one place. I will read a poem from this book, which Askold referred to. And that was such a nice introduction, Askold. Thank you. We'll settle up afterwards. So. This is called Something. Something went wrong. That's what the machine says when I call to say my paper didn't arrive. Machines are trained by people, so they're smart. They know a thing. We're 50 trillion. Did you miss your Sunday delivery? It asks. I did, I say. I miss everything, I say, because it's a machine and it has to listen, or at least it has to not hang up without trying to understand why I called, which means trying to correct what went wrong. Let me see if I got this right, the voice says. You missed your Sunday paper. Yes, I say, but also I miss my childhood and fairy tales like Eden. I miss sweet Rob Roy's with strangers. I miss fabric softener and soft lighting. I'm sorry, the machine says. I'm having trouble understanding. Did you miss today's paper? Yes, I say, but that's not half of it. Sometimes I just feel like half of me, and even that feels like too much. I'm having trouble understanding, the machine repeats, syllables halted as if trying to mimic an empath. I'm having trouble understanding too, I say. I used to understand so much. Photosynthesis, the human heart. I'd even memorized the Krebs cycle, but now all I remember is lifting the golden coil of the kitchen phone to maneuver under my mother's conversations. It was like lifting the horizon. There's a silence, and the machine asks, "Are you still there? In a few words, please describe your issue." Where do I begin being a minimalist? Time, I say. I've got a problem with that. Also, loss and detachment. That's pretty much it. And the news in its sky blue sleeve is meant to be a distraction, isn't it? I ask. More silence. And then, "You miss your mother?" a voice asks. It's a human voice. "Me too," she says. I think this is when I always say I had a really good mother. I'm a lucky, one of the lucky ones. Refusal to mourn. In lieu of flowers, send him back. Nightshirt. She stepped out of it, and day was everywhere. Cottage Bluff. We board the summer windows up so they won't see us leaving. Lot's wife. I always get confused. I always think it's Lot's turning back that turned her to salt, a whole pillar of it. I always think he's an Orpheus of sorts, though Orpheus was cuter and a knockout on his lute. But Lot? There's not a whole lot we can say in his favor. I have to think his wife had a name other than Lot's wife, that she might have looked back to glimpse the life she had before him, before he offered her daughters to that mob, before what still lay ahead. Lot himself with their daughters, Lot telling everyone how blameless he was. And her conversion? You can see why a woman might opt to be salt over flesh. A pillar goats or camels could lick, a stinging Lot could do nothing with. Late poems. What was keeping them? Survival story. How do them keep us warm? We burn them. Sway. Trees are made to sway and stay. We're made to gaze up and wonder why no one made us that way. Need a page turner. This would be when I tell jokes, but I bombed at my last reading with my joke. So why did I bomb? Because it was a bad joke. That's why. Yeah. What art can't save. Green stamps, rainwater, a man named Art, dartboards, the flagrance of flowers. Night. Someone was talking quietly of lanterns, but loud enough to light my way. Selfie stick. I'd rather have a carrot. Heaven. It's hell for the girls who loved bad boys. This is a poem written after a poem by the dear poet and a dear friend, Jane Mead. It's called Coming Back. And if you have not read her poem, I always forget the exact title, but I wonder if I'll miss the moss. It's in the New Yorker, and you should read it. Coming Back after Jane Mead. I'd want to be moss, she said. Moss, which greens where grass can't. A softness, a carpet that doesn't fly off, which isn't magical, but simply is where she isn't. I'm gonna read three more poems. Alcatraz. How quickly one gets from A to Z. How swiftly one says everything there is to see. These bars, for instance, and the flexible fencing of sharks, and how impossibly far it is, this life from that. And this is a poem for a friend, Becky Shipp, who was another poet with me when I was 21 at Iowa. And she went on to work on the Hill for many, many years, and sadly just died not very long ago. So this is for Becky Shipp. It's called Iowa, 1984. Becky had stopped being a Mormon, and I hadn't begun being anyone yet. It was summer, and all the seasons were running around inside us, past Mercy Hospital and Black's Gaslight Village, past the haze of stone angels in the cemetery. Everyone we loved was far off, in the past or future. At John's grocery, we bought a box of popsicles and sat in the parking lot to watch them melt. Red and blue and green. It was the kind of fireworks, the quiet kind, like rain on the flame of days. And I'm very pleased to be reading with John and Marianna. Looking forward to them. This is called Sugar. What was the name of that bar? Was it really the Sugar Club? Is it still there? Who were we with running in from the cold and wind? And you could still smoke in bars then. You could still go home with 6 cartons of smoke in your hair. We all had hair for days then. Our hands got lost in it, and our faces, and how crowded the bar was, and hot too. And I liked running and being useful, and you, and ran back to the blue Chevy Nova to stash our coats in the trunk, and ran back, and Lush Life was playing, and Bowie, and yelling to be heard, and the lights in the bar flashing because that part of the night was ending. And out we went to the street. It was Hoboken. It was 1983, right before Christmas. And I turned left, and everybody else went in the other direction. And this way, you said. And I said, no, I ought to know. I'm the one who ran back to the car with all our coats and the key. And who could have guessed? What are the odds that it was somebody else's car our key unlocked? And that blue Nova was long gone to Teaneck or Long Branch or Secaucus. And we looked and looked in the empty dark of our car's trunk. It was like looking for gold at the 7-Eleven, and someone said, "How stupid could you be?" And it wasn't a question. And one of us couldn't stop crying, knowing someone had her yellow coat and maybe her whole life to come. And what are the odds? 40 summers later, here we are on a hilltop in Italy. And you tell the story, but in this version, it's you and your pals from high school in Maplewood, Joey and Emma and Gabe and what's his name. And as it happens, it happened before I ever knew you, you say, so I was never there. And the name of the place was Sugar Reef on 2nd Avenue in the city, not in Hoboken. And down there in the dusk of the valley, lights are coming on. And above us, swallows and clouds like threads from a jacket unraveling. And from some hidden speaker, Lady Day is singing Sugar. I never may be my sugar. Maybe, as an action item. Imagine. And if I never was here, please, please, don't tell me.
Thank you, Andrea. Quote, Dantean in its depth, redemptively comic, impassioned and compassionate, is how Lawrence Joseph accurately describes John Hennessy's third collection of poems, Exit Garden State. Hennessy is also co-translator with Ostap Kin of the selected poems of Serhiy Zhadan, which won the Derek Walcott Prize in 2021. Hennessy and Kin also translated the anthology Babyn Yar, Ukrainian Poets Respond. Their translations of the selected poems of Yuri Andrukhovych are forthcoming from the New York Review of Books this fall?
Yes, late November.
Late November. Hennessy is also the poetry editor of The Common and teaches at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Reading Hennessy's Exit Garden State, the reader immediately recognizes the poems and the poet's intelligence and wit. Quote, approach child rearing as a farm-to-table project, he advises in the book's opening poem. I have to confess my personal delight in discovering some of the landmarks of my misspent Jersey youth in these encompassing poems. Here's the Anheuser-Busch plant on Route 1, where my father worked. And there's the Merck chemical plant, where I did time in the mailroom. That's what you get for getting an MFA. Hennessy has a gift for discovering poetry as much in the urban as in the rural, glancing past Broadway prison's sullen gray dome to overwatered flower beds scattering dropped petals, end quote. Among the stories of his Irish immigrant forebears, one stands out because of its striking literary pedigree. An ancestor named Tom Kettle was, quote, the only person James Joyce would talk Aquinas with, end quote. I was asking John earlier whether this was a persona poem. John swore to me them's the facts. As you can tell, Hennessy's range is vast. The public and the external world are as present as the often poignant personal sphere. Indeed, in his poem titled Which God, Hennessy goes beyond Sidney's demanding that a poet both teach and delight. He ravishes. Just listen. Quote, which God were you? The one who bathed me in the kitchen sink when I was small enough to fit? Who made the camel kneel and the cow to low? Who drove the fish up the canal to spawn under piers that reeked of creosote? Who blessed and cursed me with a dream of fidelity? John Hennessy.
Sorry. Thank you, Askold.
Thanks for inviting me, and it's great to be with Andrea and Marianna, one of whom I've translated, the other I've read very much. And thank you for reading Sugar. I've been recommending it to everybody lately. Yeah, it's fantastic. I'll try to be fast. I timed myself at 15 minutes yesterday, and I'll try to keep it that way. I started this book over 10 years ago, and it just came out on this week. One reason why it took so long is that it was going to be a quiet meditation on family life, the nest emptying. And then my marriage exploded in a spectacular fashion. So I had to kind of come back and revise things a little bit. This is Family Man in the Valley. Hang the shovel from a calvary of nails. Resist your own cross-examination. Ask the vine that creeps across the shed to press its own advantage, vinegar of envy. Approach child rearing as a farm-to-table project. Think organic produce, grass-fed beef. Or clap like sunlight, wave hands like clouds, simultaneously welcome and release. Scour the watering can caked with rust. Pluck last fall's leaves still skewered on the rake. Call the dangling branch widowmaker. See who's first to wish it into firewood. Second chance dad. The second time my father gave me life, he pulled me from a coach's path. New York crossing, I stepped off the curb looking left, not right, near Dublin's rotunda. Exactly the mercy work my sisters sent him for. Brief's traffic fumes, a useless creeping half-knowledge, had dulled my sense. Dad, good in crisis, kept me fed, made room for pints, told stories, boosted me over the fence around Sheila Nagig, subject of my research. Imagine otherwise, the site off limits, retreat to books, hikes near the flat in Christchurch, where they'd already trysted, steeped in ignorance. What if I had avoided relatives, dead in Dublin, living in Clare, just poxed and red? It's the first time I'm reading from this book. It's not that dog-eared or anything yet. Everything's still slick. This is called Leaving the Garden. Don't underestimate the power of the house. Keep it and keep the power. Or maybe you've always had the power, so keep the house. Surround the garden with painted fire, a grove of burning maple trees that bend and close behind the one who leaves. Let them leave willingly, thinking another paradise grows outside archangel flames. Catalpa trees will spread above the silver birches, rise and flower, drop their pods on greener grass or richer soil, all real, no artifice. The constructs, contracts, whatever used to pass for life, exposed. You'll keep the children past childhood, the children's children, yours at last. This is one side of a dialogue. Askold mentioned Aquinas, so I took on my ancestor and have decided to do my own Aquinas. This is his half of a dialogue. It's called Convenience Store Aquinas. 7-Eleven's a misnomer, like mind-body problem. They never close. The hyphen's a dash of form. Sure, this mind body's a machine, if you want, plowing across town to the steakhouse. American spirit, give us the yellow pack. No match at this $1.59 Santa lighter, too. Big grab bag of Doritos. No, the engine is not separate. It's part of the machine. Sure, paper's good, container for recycling. Rain's no problem. I eat the Doritos, smoke up, one for you. The chips are part of my machine. Matter inside matter. Smoke fires my lungs, gives me that slap of pleasure in my tailbone, maybe stimulates a thought. I'm prime matter informed by the soul. I didn't just slip the word in there. That's a spade. It digs through bullshit. Lean close, under the awning, cover up, you want a light. The mist can't decide if it's rain or fog. Streetlight moons, clouds around the neon signs. Pink as the steak we're heading for. The comfort of a red leather banquette. No, your engine exists as part of and powers its machine. Separated, both are just scrap, bunch of gears, rusty sprockets, an unlit oven, unbaked potatoes, sour cream inside a cow, chives growing mostly underground. Engine is a bad analogy. I'm one thing, not two. No intermediaries. I don't have a body. I am one. A hungry one at the moment. What'll it be? Filet mignon? Slab of prime rib, don't trim the fat? 12-ounce T-bone, 2 inches thick? No, I'll wait until after I eat for another, but you go right ahead. Here's a light. I have the question, cut. Do I cut this? Well, let's see. Let's wade into it. This is called Tutor to the Prophet. At play, James kicks pigeon-toed, legs scissoring flared pants, quick at the hips and waist, white high-top cons, launching a loud pink kickball arc, pang, over Nova and Impala, parked Firebird, ancient Valiant, jacked up on the corner. From third, I can walk home backwards. Raphael scores. James sprints behind us, fist of his pick raised from back pocket. James at work we dub Ouija, mad smart at math and plants. Whole summer days pass and we can't find him. He's hidden in the library, spelunking the stacks or tutoring his brothers. The signal he's back? We see the aftermath of his projects. He's window-boxed marigolds and basil, peppers and geraniums, 2 kinds of ivy, scented dianthus, shaded impatiens, or strung clotheslines across the back stairs in zigzags, maxing the surface area for laundry in the sun. Later, on that same backstairs sun porch, sheets sailing their lines around us, James, our Ouija, becomes Abdurrahim. The autobiography of Malcolm X presides, doorguard, 2 speeches, bedside, the recitation. He debates Raphael on power, on the beautiful, hegemony, and difference. The apartment window soundtracks low, I'd rather be with you. And his mother, pinning her uniform before work, still overhears. Couple of Catholic boys, family from suspect islands, Ireland, Puerto Rico, Sicily. Shit, oh not James, nor Ouija, but Abdurrahim. Should I just cut you 2 loose? Don't even kid, his mother says, opening the back door on us in the syndicated fiction of memory, cast as Julia, say, Diane Carroll, Rosalind Cash. volume rising, extraterrestrial, the hardwired guitar, Bootsy's synth-like bass, braids gathered overhead in one hand, blocking the skyline of Merc stacks, Rahway prisons, sullen gray dome. You're going to do this thing, okay, commit to the book. But where you three go, let's ease back a bit, be circumspect. 30 years later, music down, clean laundry billowing, snapping, construction site on the corner quiet, sometimes slid back stairs, in conversation with her, with Ralph, lost Ouija, wondering aloud, imagining all over again, his laugh or scowl, as Abdurrahim says, check the tutor to the prophet. His work runs green, like mine, Al-Khidr. His name means green forever. His mother turns back, fixes her collar. We fold up sheets, bring them in behind her. I'll do two more. This is called Lisbon, Transient Global Amnesia, and it's for Rue Freeman. Transient global amnesia is an odd condition that struck me a while ago. I was traveling, you'll hear the story, but it's transient because it doesn't last long. It's global because it affects both hemispheres of the brain, and it's amnesia because you can't remember shit. But oddly, I could remember some things, but I couldn't remember where I was. And I've been traveling a lot. I was in Lisbon. I was with my then 18-year-old son, and I came out of the shower late at night and I said, hey, Nick, it's the weirdest thing. I don't know where I am. He said, you're in Lisbon. I said, what? What am I doing in Lisbon? I'd never been there. He said, you're going to give a talk. Now it's starting to be like a nightmare. Like, I'm giving a talk? Have I written this talk? He said, well, knowing you, most likely you have. And I said, well, I'd better find it. He said, okay, there's something wrong with you. And he took me to the hospital. Okay. All right, Lisbon, Transient Global Amnesia for Rue Freeman. Lisbon, you've hurt me, tricked me into believing all the old lies. Delusions are endless. If you're looking for a mark, here I am, flat on my hospital bed, joking against amnesia, transient, global, while my son stands by in terror. I told him it felt like an acid flashback. There was a buzzing in my brain, apologized for his chromosomes, forgot and apologized again. His mother's shadow circled like a summoner, bird-wing petulance, all the elegance of crow's flight, called back after she'd flown to an intrigue's heights. I filed my own missing persons report. Still I grouse, land me, because this is about you, Lisbon, because you waited for us, this return. My son's along and laughing, memory back, and every labyrinth open. Your pink walls and pink streets I wake and dream down. At the end of every looted marble sidewalk, under the sky of Igreja de São Domingos, the clean halls and coffee roast, machine oil of Rocio Station, Alameda's uphill tracks, along the plane trees, and at the top of every Miradouro, I see you. Your hands take hold of me. I kiss your palms in this second, this new Lisbon, we plant and pave for each other. And I'll finish with something called 20 Questions. Who is the you behind the you revive every morning and follow out into sun covered in fog, under white pines and over bridges, cross cold flowing streams, rivers of snow melt? When you board the train willingly, with a letter that begins, I don't wish I'd never met you. Do those double negatives negate your shame and suffering? When you plunge up the tracks past the mountains of your lost New England Shangri-La, your past and family and dissolution of what mattered most to you, do you keep your eyes averted, or do you watch the stopped mills and sullen bricks? When you see a raccoon on a flat factory roof, do you turn to your seatmate and include them in the marvel? Or do you stop up your ears with buds, and how will those buds flower? Into song, speech, music without words? What do you ask yourself as coffee brews in the back, and you smell pastries in the microwave, the cafe car and its offerings, and you remember Malcolm X worked the cross-country trains, as did your father's uncles, and their father and uncles, and theirs, and on back. How do you board, sit and watch and listen, leaving behind the ruined cities you track through? How do you keep quiet? How do you see the stilled cranes, the rust machinery of childhood that is yet to be cleared, the human lives in buses and cars and on foot passing by still, or waiting at the bus stops, waiting at the stations of these former sites of industry and bust, these Camdens and Amboys, Bridgeports and Hollyoaks? Who are you, and how do you pass through? And how is it the best you can hope for is that someone writes, I don't wish I'd never met you. What have you ever done? What will you do now? Where and how will you get off? Beside which mill or factory? Which storage tank or coker unit? Where will you find the refinery intended for the soul? The one that burns through the self, that will finally change this world. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Good questions. So this next reading takes a moment of setup. It's going to be a bilingual reading, and I really want to extend my thanks to Lely for stepping in at the last moment to read the English translations of Marianna Kiyanovska's poems. The translations themselves are by Oksana Maksimchuk and Maxim Rosachinsky. So there's a little history that's needed, because I don't know how many of you know this history already. In late September 1941, the German occupying forces did the following orders in Russian, Ukrainian, and German all around the city of Kyiv. This is a quote from the poster. All Yids of the city of Kyiv and its vicinity must appear on Monday, 29th of September by 8 o'clock in the morning in the corner of Melnikova and Doktorovskaya streets near the Viskova cemetery. Bring documents, money and valuables, and also warm clothing, linen, etc. Any Yids who do not follow this order and are found elsewhere will be shot. Any civilians who enter the dwellings left by Yids and appropriate the things in them will be shot. Apparently, the Germans expected no more than 5,000 people to heed their summons. Instead, over 30,000 Jews, most assuming they were to be deported, appeared near the ravine known as Babyn Yar, bearing their most prized possessions. And so, on September 29th, began the most murderous 2 days of the Holocaust. 33,771 Jews were murdered. Only 29 survived. Over the months that followed, the Nazis' additional victims included Ukrainian nationalists, Roma, and Soviet prisoners. In all, the mass grave was said to hold between 100 and 150,000 bodies. In her book, Voices from Babyn Yar, Marianna Kiyanovska, one of the leading Ukrainian poets of her generation, brings to us a daring sequence of dramatic monologues. The book is a heroic project of retrieval, a demonstration of the imagination's capacity to witness what it never saw. The imagined voices we hear in these poems are wrenching. Kiyanovska's keen ear brings us into intimate contact with her speakers, We feel their terror while experiencing surreal moments of hope. Quote, the cries of the guard break the silence in the ravine. It dawns on me, there's no death. Walking through rainbows of dew, Sheila says, it only seems barren and dark. Come and see, joy and light, boundless, stark. Each soliloquy feels like a novel pared down to its essence. In one, the speaker sits beside his grandfather who has been shot by a policeman. He explains to the old man that they have been summoned to Babyn Yar. Quote, Mama said we've been ordered to gather. They won't shoot, it's a promise, end quote. The old man knows better. Recognizing they have no choice, he advises, quote, off you go, but first kill the cat. In another poem, a man lying prostrate in the pit, awaiting his bullet, worries about who will now feed his homing pigeons. Such novelistic details give dimension and emotional weight to these lyrics. Quote, in order to bear witness, I need not survive. To survive in this war would be a betrayal, says one of the speakers. The speaker then claims to have felt terror only twice, once at the shooting of a friend, and a second time when, quote, Mama told me how our David was burned alive right in front of them in Irpin near Kyiv. Irpin happens to be the site of a recent massacre of Ukrainians by Russian forces. What began as a project aimed at history has become irrevocably fused with current events. On March 1st, 2022, Babyn Yar itself was struck by a Russian missile. Quote, no one will write about us, laments one of Hitler's victims in the book. But Kiyanovska has, and we will remember. I've no doubt that the voice of Babyn Yar is destined to become a classic text in the Ukrainian literary canon. Marianna Kiyanovska and Halana Leliv. A little bit of a dance here. What's you're gonna? Okay, so everything will be read in Ukrainian first, and then okay, then in English. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Askold. Thank you. Тут могли бути сотні вулиць, але вулиць немає. Іван каже нові, дивися, це місце немова Вавилон. Але тут у нас перемішано не мови, а мовчання і кості. Хоча деякі не перемішано. Я зі своїми із 33-го, ти зі своїми із 41-го, ви тут були новенькі. А ота баба вже вся потрухла. А та молодуха прибилась пізніше. Вони тут з краю обидві собі самі, ну по правді то таки не самі, а десь так, як колись булося людям на присілку. Коли не дуже то й дивляться, де свої, де чужі, все пам'ятають, а коли облітає лід, ота молода, ширинок під приталем на крилах власної пам'яті, не такої, аж твоя і моя, в білій незапненій вишиванці, як ті, що ми готіли над ешелоном. Гоготіли і клекотали, душі примерзли до дерева, на підлозі пожарища, в густинах і картузах. Вона тільки трохи за нас молодша і без кулі в голові, без кулі в серці, без глини під язиком. Ой, Ярина, Ярина. Танцювала, здається, колись у балеті, здається, зараз тіло неначе чуже, важко дихати, йти. Автоматник стоїть на узбіччі, стоїть і сміється. Я ще думала вранці, що треба ковтину вдягти, ту привезену з кантиком білим, бо вже прохолода дуже гарна була і улюблена ще до війни. Даніель мій казав, що мені на усе не догода, але зараз інакше усе. Babyn Yar, довкруги бур'яни. Коло мене йдуть різні люди і дуже багато. На руках у жінок немовлята, скрізь діти й старі, а сусідка Хавіла вдяглася, як на справдішнє свято, навіть туфлі святкові узула, і Бог угорі бачить сльози Хавілині й ноги об камені стерті, аж до крові у танці під дулом, підошви штунки. Залишилося кілька хвилин до останньої смерті, бо усі попередні вмирання були не такі. У кімнаті була весіла, у кімнаті була весіла, у кімнаті була весіла, біла сукня весільна. Я у шафу її сховала, я у шафу її сховала, я у шафу її сховала, бо Давида вбили. Айзенсгруппа Зондеркоманда, Айзенсгруппа Зондеркоманда, Айзенсгруппа Зондеркоманда, поліцаї СС розстрільна. Ми з Давидом були щасливі, ми з Давидом були щасливі, ми з Давидом були щасливі, ми з Давидом любили. Мама вранці його прибігла, мама вранці його прибігла, мама вранці його прибігла, запитала, чи знаю. Я не знала, всю ніч не спала, я не знала, всю ніч не спала, я не знала, всю ніч не спала, чула постріли з яру. Я не маю вже, каже, сина, я не маю вже, каже, сина, я не маю вже, каже, сина, тебе проклинаю. Ти живеш, а його не стало, ти живеш, а його не стало, ти живеш, а його не стало. Май це, Вірко, за кару. Я за кару це, мамо, маю, от стою і співаю, щоб не чути пострілів з яру, і потрошки маю. Ці вулиці вже руїни, ще, може, не всі, то вже. Я це кістьми відчуваю, мені це болить у жилах. І небо таке глибоке, і сонце таке чуже, і тяжко йти під гору. Казали в ровах могилах, казали в ровах могилах між вбитих напівживі, і стогнуть рови ночами, цей стогін у тиші чути на кілька сусідніх вулиць, як шелести у траві, як гухання, і як ревіт, який розриває груди. Казали, що у будинках жидівських суціль скарби, тепер їх суціль простукують, і часто сусіди всякі, і стукіт цей також чути на вулицях, і якби каміння могло кричати, воно би кричало. Яків упав, і його пристрелили. В колоні не всі за всіх, не кожен тебе підтримає, не кожен візьме за руку, та може воно і добре, із яру безтямний сміх, а потім коротка черга здіймає з землі пилюку. Не знає скорбот людина, не знає скорботи місць, не знає дороги серця, аж доки не вийде з часу. Я в тому рулі могилі лежатиму, добрий гість, і з мене ростиме дерево, безмежно живе щоразу. Я все ж таки це промовлю. Я все ж таки це прийму. Сказавши і не сказавши, неначе віду у море, війна означає безвість і болю страшну пітьму, і ще означає відчай, і голе, коротке горе. Я був на Дніпрі учора, насправді не на Дніпрі, а просто здаля дивився на води його і хвилі, горіло рудаве листя дерев, і човни ховалися під водою і гнили. І чайки білі даремно шукали свідка на свій непташиний крик, оплакуючи рибалок і просто загибель міста. А я заридав нелюдське, і був покусив язик. Та зараз я це промовлю. Присутність завжди двоїста, просвердлені намистинами, хтось кулею наскрізь, хтось нанизані намистинами, і жодна не є окремо, і сонце стоїть так високо, немов воно піднялось, щоб місто згори побачити, і як ми у ньому мремо, і як ми у ньому ходимо, дивитися на ріку, тому що нас убивають. Аделька, Мір'ям, Дебора лежать у яру розстріляні. Я маю печаль таку, що серце зробилось каменем, і стала душа прозора. І тоншає все, і тоншає, а це означає смерть. І сутність її двоїста, бо смерть це насправді разом з Аделькою і Деборою, з Мір'ям, доки неба твердь, і доки Дніпро і кручі, досвід поза час. Я вже навіть не знаю, чи плакати тут тепер. Увійду в перетворення, це ніби лезом за запах поту, сечі і присохлої крові. Я здер струб із рани, сукровиця жовта, а пісня весела. Пташка поруч щебече, насправді, звичайно, що ні. Зараз вересень. Всі відлетіли зимою у вирій. Нас ведуть попри мур. Поступово здається мені, що на розстріл у яр. У гестапівця усмішці щирі щось від вищеру. Зуби біліють, арійські білки, кожне з яблук кучних ідеальне, і вилиті, і скроні. Я колись на таке не зважав, а оце навпаки. Я зважаю на все. Ось на сірій стіні, на осонні притулився метелик. Я вірю, що бачить мене. Цей метелик мій свідок, хоч сам він помре незабаром. Так іскриться повітря, так листячко вітер жене. Так конвойного крик переламує тишу над яром, що приходить гулке усвідомлення. Смерті нема. Нас ведуть по воді дощовій в різнотрав'ї густому. Шеля каже, що всюди лиш біль, нагота і пітьма. Але потім є світло безмежне і радість в усьому. Ми були тут, палили вогнище. Найчастіше Льоня і Яків. Льоня тут коло мене майже, в нього чорна щербинка в зубі. А коли вже догорало, він казав серцевини маків, і дивіться, якісь обличчя, поруч інші, червоногубі. Зараз тут усі роти з землею, хтось ковтав, намагався кричати, та не вийшло кричати, що ви, в тісноті тріскотливі, сперті, всі вмирали за себе кожен. А мені захотілося спати, а тоді захотілося жити і реготати чомусь до смерті. Кулеметні далекі черги, ми вже не ходили в школу. Мама навіть мене просила не виходити в двір, хоч літо. Але я утікав із дому, аж до ночі блукав коло, і зі мною блукали іноді, а гранатів молодші діти. Рудка вічно хотіла їсти, задивлялась на вікна темні і постійно повітря нюхала. Контентуйся, її просили, а вона все ніяк. Облава почалась, ми входив таємні, а вони навздогін з псами. Йоська крикнув: біжіть щосили. І побіг дворами. Рятувався тоді на диво. Йоська і Рудку знайшли уранці. Їх таки наздогнали кулі. Я дивився на них, не плакав, та на серці було жахливо. Назлітали зелені мухи. Тітка Циля й новоприбулі теж лежали рядком тихенько і мовчали, як лиш уміли. Я ж назавтра попав в облаву. Бабин Яр повезли у спеку. Дядько поруч стогнав і марив, ніби небо зробилось біле. Я поглянув, звичайно, синє. Жінка поруч була далеко. Нас усіх розстріляють зараз. На щоках палахтять рум'янці. Льоня тут коло мене майже. В нього верхня губа розбита. У мене там голуби зачинені. Тож їх випустять рано вранці. Це ж вони там усі погинуть. Голуб'ятні, без крихти жити.
The translations that I will read were made by Oksana Maksimchuk and Max Rosuchinsky. Hundreds of streets could fill this vastness, this open space. Ivan says to Nava, this place resembles Babylon, except what's getting mixed are not languages, but silences, bones. Even though bodies are kept separate, I, for one, hang on to my folks from 33, you to your newcomers from 41. That old woman's starting to reek, that young one's a new arrival, lying close to the edge, so lonely, yet not alone, like those living on the frontier who no longer know who's from around here and who's a stranger, remembering all. When the ice melts, the young woman glides over the thawing corpses, lifted up by the arms, so unlike yours and mine. in the white unbuttoned blouse like the ones we spotted flickering over the rail cars, filled with restless and noisy souls, frozen stiff, stuck to the wooden boards, turned to ash in kerchiefs and caps. She's but a little younger than us, yet with no bullet in her head, no bullet in her heart, no clay in her mouth. Oi, Yarina, Yarina. Once I was a dancer in a ballet, maybe. Now my body seems foreign, hard to breathe or to amble. A gunner on the side of the road is leering at me. I was thinking I'd wear a cardigan, but forgot to remember by the door as I left. For the mornings are already cold. It was brought from abroad, so pretty. Before the war, Daniel said that to me, everything's slightly flawed. All is changed now. The yard overgrown with walls. People walking beside me. So many. Women with babies, mostly children and older folk. And my neighbor Haviva, dressed up as if for a holiday. She put on her party shoes, and God from above sees her tears, her feet bruising against the boulders in her dance at the point of a gun. Those souls, so thin, only minutes remain till crossing the ultimate border. All the previous deaths, they weren't at all like this. In the room there hung, in the room there hung, in the room there hung, wedding dress, white and long. Now I put it away, now I put it away, now I put it away, for my David got killed. Einsatzgruppe Sonderkommando, Einsatzgruppe Sonderkommando, Einsatzgruppe Sonderkommando, an SS execution squad. We were happy, David and I. We were happy, David and I. We were happy, David and I. David and I were in love. In the morning his mother came. In the morning his mother came. In the morning his mother came, asked me if I already knew. Didn't know, didn't sleep all night. Didn't know, didn't sleep all night. Didn't know, didn't sleep all night. Heard shots from the yard. I'm a mother no more, she said. I'm a mother no more, she said. I'm a mother no more, she said. May you, woman, be cursed. He's gone, and you're still alive. He's gone, and you're still alive. He's gone, and you're still alive. That's your punishment, Virka. That's my punishment, Mama dear. So I sway and I sing a ditty, drowning out the shots from the yard, dying little by little. These streets lie in ruins, not all of them, all at once. I feel in my bones, it hurts me inside my veins. The sky is so deep. I watch a strange foreign sun, so tiring to walk uphill. They said, in ravines, in graves, in trenches, amidst the killed, half alive, those trenches groan in the night. You hear it in the silence of empty neighboring streets with patches of dandelion, like raving mad laughter that carves the breast into slices. They said there were hidden treasures in Jewish homes, walls tapped inch by inch, often by former neighbors, a knocking of knuckles and sticks in the streets. If stones could cry out, they would. There goes old Jacob. He fell, he was shot in the midst of the column. Not all for all, so few who would shield you, afford you a moment's rest. Maybe for the best. In the yard, a mad rolling howl, then bursts of machine guns raising a line of dust. Man comprehends no sorrow, no mourning place, as long as he is in time, heading towards the exit. I'm cradled inside the trench, a considerate guest. Out of me grows a tree, boundless, living in every instant. And yet I will utter it, and yet I'll accept it all, by saying, not saying, like walking into the sea. War means an obscurity, a terrible dark of woe. It means a despair, a naked and piercing grief. I saw the Dnipro last night, didn't make it to the Dnipro. I watched from the distance its waters, its rolling waves, the yellowing leaves aflame, and the ancient boats peaked with decaying planks from under the surface. White seagulls were searching in vain for a witness to their unavian cries, mourning the dying town. I cried out non-humanly, stopped myself, bit my tongue, and now I will utter it. Presence is always twofold. We are center-drilled beats. A bullet goes in and out, no one set apart. We're, all of us, strung together. Sun reaches its zenith, as if it has risen up to witness us from above, and how we are dying here, how we are meandering, watching the river flow because we get slaughtered. Adelka, Miriam, Deborah, all lie in the ravine. I bear such a great war. It turns heart to stone and makes the soul turn transparent. It grows even thinner, and that means no less than death. Its being is twofold, for death really means together with Deborah, Adelka, and Miriam, as far as celestial depth, as far as the Dnipro's flow in the timeless ether. I don't know if it's possible to cry in this state. I enter a metamorphosis, like a blade enters grain, the smell of sweat, urine, blood coming off me, like a scab off the wound. Someone sings in a tree, maybe a bird, but I know it just couldn't be. All the songbirds are gone at this time of year. They are leading us by a wall. It dawns on me we're going to get killed in the closest ravine. The Gestapo officers smile, young and sincere. I examine his teeth, perfect carnivores, snarl. Each of his eyeballs, temples, cheekbones, ideal. Rarely noticed such things in the past, but now I perceive everything. For instance, this butterfly on the gray, sunlit wall, bearing witness to me. Soon it will die. Autumn air sparkles, a leaf softly blown by the wind. The cries of the guards break the silence in the ravine. It dawns on me there is no death. Walking through rainbows of dew, Shaila says, it only seems barren and dark. Come and see, joy and light, boundless, stark. We used to come here to build a bonfire, most often with Yakiv and Lonya. He's next to me now, his tooth is chipped. We'd examine the cinders, read them like old shamans, poppies in suit. Check this out, faces with gaping mouths. All of the mouths here now have been stuffed with soil so densely packed one cannot let out. Every man for himself and dies on his own. But I'm dying to fall asleep and to live and to laugh like a nut. The machine gun bursts in the distance and no more school summer break. Mother said better not go outdoors, but I went anyway and roamed our neighborhood, sometimes with Rutka and Yoska, the neighbor's brood. Rutka was always hungry, kept staring, sniffing around, catching the scents of food. Stop begging, you fool, lay low. Then there was a raid. We dove into alleys, a secret nook, dogs chasing after us. Yoska yelled, run, 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 so I ran through the inner courtyards and got away. Yoska and Ruth discovered the morning after, caught by the bullets. I didn't cry with an awful pain. Flies everywhere. Aunt Tsila and the recent arrivals from the village lay as in a game, doing their best to hold still. Soon I was caught in a raid, rounded up and driven here to Babyn Yar in this heat. An ancient man next to me ran a fever. He said, look, the sky, it is turning silver, but it looks blue to me. By my side, already far away, Lonya feels very close, his bruised lips still swelling. What of my pigeons? Looked up in the cow. No grain. What if they die in there trapped and no one's coming? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful reading tonight. Let's give it forward to another round. Thank you all for attending. We have some books for now. Poets will be signing books. If you could all please put your chairs up against one of the walls, we're very grateful. Thank you.